So I played Sable for the first time a few weeks ago, as it was free on the Epic Game Store, and I really enjoyed it, very good game. But a few hours in, I started thinking about what kind of game it really was. Well, of course it's an open world game. The similarities with Breath of the Wild are ridiculously obvious for that matter, but for some reason it rather reminded me of another genre. You see, in Sable you're mostly doing two things, walking around and climbing. Well, yes, that sounds exactly like Breath of the Wild, walking around and climbing, but it's very different, because in Breath of the Wild, the center of the actual active gameplay isn't the walking or the climbing. Those appear as a pacing device to allow the player to slow down and take in the atmosphere. What we'd call the exploration portion of the game, or rather of the gameplay loop. But the core of the gameplay isn't that, it's the fighting and the puzzles. And this dynamic can be seen in games, any kind of games, not just open worlds, since basically forever, the core of most video games is a fighting puzzle gameplay loop, or something similar. In that sense, the only difference between those and an open world game is that the latter elongates the downtime between these core parts of the loop, by adding in the exploration component. You explore and you get rewarded with a fighting or a puzzle, which is the true nugget of gameplay that interests you. But it isn't how Sable works. In Sable you don't fight, and there are puzzles, but they are few and far between, and honestly not very good. Now in Sable I found the primary gameplay, the source of enjoyment, is the climbing itself. The climbing is intense, thoughtful. You really find yourself thinking of where a potential resting spot could be. There is this amazing dynamics of converting height to transitional movement by gliding, to try to reposition to more advantageous spot, risk and reward. Every step is a short and exciting burst of stamina up the wall, while never being sure if you're gonna make it. I truly was in awe at how good the climbing in this game was. And this was not the case for that of Breath of the Wild, and it's fine. In Breath of the Wild, the climbing is just another walking, a throwaway mechanic meant to vary a bit the exploration section until you get to the good part. But in Sable, climbing is the good part. I'm not saying that Sable isn't an open world, it clearly is. Nor that it wasn't inspired by Breath of the Wild, as it clearly was. What I'm saying is that open world isn't a game genre per se, but is composed of various subgenres. Breath of the Wild is an action-adventure game in open world, Sable is a climbing game in open world. So that's it, Sable is a climbing game, that's what I was getting at? Well, no. For some reason, playing Sable, I was reminded of another genre. Playing this climbing game, I couldn't help but think about Immersive Sims. The Immersive Sim genre is a really weird one. It contains some of the greatest masterpieces in gaming, while somehow those always being the most poorly sold one. And for that matter, there seems to be really no consensus on what actually is an Immersive Sim, or rather where to draw the line regarding what game can be considered one. This is of course not helped by the fact that the name Immersive Sim doesn't mean much. It's a mess. In truth, this genre is more like a spectrum, a general philosophy of design, and it is defined by various elements and tropes that progressively push a given game to be seen as an immersive sim. The easy answer to what's an immersive sim is really just, you know it when you see it. Of course, this isn't really useful to cite Dishonored, Thief, Deus Ex, Prey to explain the genre if you've not played them. And if you have, there's a good chance you already know what the genre entails. But just to be on the same page, let's have a quick rundown. Immersive sims are commonly defined by two core design elements. First is player choice. Levels can be approached in various ways, there are often lots of tools and abilities, multiple solutions to any problem, and the game encourages coming up with new ones. And to accommodate this wide array of player interaction, the second design choice is at play, systemic design, one which has become synonymous with this genre, as well as another. The idea is that gameplay mechanics are simulated by systems that realistically and dynamically interact with each other to create interesting gameplay scenarios, instead of being hard-coded or scripted. Those two core design choices are the center of this philosophy, but the games that were made with it incidentally created new design principles that are now taken as given. Mostly the core ethos of Arcane Studios, which is one of the last AAA studios keeping alive this genre, has dedicated what is now de facto considered to be the exemplary immersive sim. Deep and rich worlds with detailed lore and text snippet to find, environmental storytelling, very dense, rich, interconnected level design, and the most obligatory of all, two possible playstyle, stealth or fighting, among which the player can choose, and the ridiculously on-the-nose play your way pop-up. So that's the Immersive Sim, a game where you fight or you snoop around, with many tools and complex systems that keep the gameplay fresh. That's it. Except when I play, I can never focus on that. There's another gameplay trope that is weirdly consistent and that doesn't get talked about much. And yet, for some reason, it's the one I keep focusing on. It's the one I'm obsessed about. The one that, to me, defines the immersive sim genre more than anything else. It's the climbing. So this might seem to come out of left field, but picture this. You've just started playing Dishonored 2 and you're in the street of Karnaca for the first time. In what might seem like a pretty usual video game level, you follow the path that was laid for you, the objective marker telling you where to go, until you arrive to your first obstacle. A wall of light is blocking your path. And the game tells you in a pop-up to play your way. You have multiple ways of dealing with the problem, the pictures tell you. Turn off the wall or go through the open window. Except you don't. Instead, you look up the buildings. Those buildings, which in any other game would have just been disguised level boundaries, insurmountable walls stopping you from escaping the intended, if slightly binary path. But this is not any kind of game. You climb up them, reach the roof, and see the whole level expanding before your eyes. A level of freedom and denseness. This right here is the immersive sim difference. I like to think that if you're a bit of experience with video games, you understand what this action of climbing entails. Normally, in other games, you can't do that. Normally, you have a path and you follow it. Even so-called non-linear games, RPGs and such, give you multiple approaches to choose from, maybe locked behind specific abilities, but these are clearly telegraphed, easily noticeable, obvious. In those games, the choices are just linear sections running in parallel. Turn off the wall or go through the window. What's going on in Dishonored 2 is much more than that. Climbing was not a choice that was telegraphed, it was a choice that I created for myself by playing, by the very nature of the openness of the game itself. You're not going down a tree of binary choices, you're exploring a map of infinite possibilities, limited only by your creativity. And all that is made by one simple action, climbing. And I do realize that my fascination for an action so simple comes from the baggage of understanding I have of the design norms in other games. It's not an accident either that verticality is one of the most underused elements in level design across the entire medium really. Immersive Sims break those norms and force the gamer to rethink everything they think they know about what's possible or not in the game. This is what makes the power, but also what causes their downfall. Because sadly, the average gamer will not realize or care to execute such a mindset shift. The average gamer will never even try to climb up that roof, to take their freedom into their own hands, because they are so used to not being allowed to. And so they will not engage with what makes the immersive sim so special. They will see Dishonored as Assassin's Creed in first person, without realizing that it goes far beyond this horizon. And sadly, this horizon cannot be fully revealed by this meager play your way pop-up. A pop-up that is content to reduce the incredible expanse of the game to the simple binary choices seen in RPGs. This is the tragedy of the immersive sim. They are too complex to be tactfully presented to the player. They are bound to be forever misunderstood. And as such, even if you played one, you may never realize what it really meant. And so, once you realize you can climb up the building, the balance shifts. By letting you do it, the game has made you a promise. That you won't ever face an invisible wall again. That you won't ever face an empty space void of collision. From now on, anywhere you will go will be real. And the climbing escapes the realm of the gameplay, of the functional, to become a challenge. A challenge to the game to prove that it keeps its promises. A way to test just how far can it go, how real can it be until it is taken aback by the limit of its own design. No longer am I climbing up the buildings to find a new way to get to my objective. Now I'm just climbing to see when the game won't let me. And the game lets me. Again and again. It keeps its promise. It shows me everything is real. The one example that everyone loves to use to point out to the immersive simness of Prey goes something like this. You're in the Arboretum, about the 4th level in the game, and one elevator is turned off, but you can still climb up the top floor, if you're smart and attentive enough. The game gives you this freedom, lets you get to the place early, lets you feel like you outsmarted it. But that's too easy, that's too obvious. What to me truly makes Prey an immersive sim is that once you're up there on the top floor, you can climb up the metal beams holding the skybox together. It's not easy, and there's nothing up on these metal beams, no rewards, no dialogues, no places to reach. The metal beams were there and you could climb on them. Once again, everything is real, nothing is faked, and I'm still flabbergasted, waiting for the moment when the game will finally show me a crack, but it just won't. And I push it even further. You see the lobby? You see all the structural beams holding it in place, going up hundreds of meters? Surely this is just decor. Surely it's just there for the look, to break up the monotony, to sell the architecture. And I climb up there, and the game lets me. And I climb even higher, and the game still lets me. Finally I get to the top, and there is nothing there. Just silence. And the vertigo of the actual level, the one I'm supposed to be playing, tiny all the way down there. If you ask me what makes Prey one of my favorite video games, what moment makes Prey so incredibly special, I would point to that. A game where you're free to climb everywhere, where you face no invisible walls, remind you of anything? That's right, I'm getting back to where I started, because of course there was a point to all this open world talk I did in the beginning. You see, in a lot of ways, Immersive Sims and open world are two very related genres. This is not an innovative take either. There was this video from Game Maker's Toolkit from like 6 years back, in which he talked about how immersive sims were being replaced by sandbox games, which were coincidentally mostly open world. The difference is that he referred only to the aspect of systemic design, which it is true, and as I alluded to earlier, is extremely prevalent in modern open worlds. But as we've seen during these videos, the similarities go way beyond that. This element of climbing I've put front and center would be considered to be first and foremost an open world trope by most. And don't misunderstand, I'm not saying that open worlds and immersive sims are one and the same. There are a lot of things, mostly scale and focus, which may make one preferred over the other. I'll let you guess in which camp I'm in. Honestly, this could make a whole other video. This is to say that to imagine that open world have replaced immersive sims, while it might be true in the market, it's very much not so in the actual design. And I think it's really a shame that we may never see a new game like Dishonored or Prey come out again, especially considering the mess Arkane Studio was put in recently. I guess the main takeaway of this video is this: if you enjoy open world games, and if maybe you're dissatisfied with the trajectory those are taking, you may want to consider trying out an immersive sim or two.